Best Gaming PC 2018. 10 of the top gaming desktops you can buy. 1. Alienware Aurora R6. CPU, Intel Core i5 i7. Graphics, AMD Radeon RX 560 Nvidia GeForce GTX 1080 Ti. RAM, 8GB 64GB. Storage, 1TB 2TB HDD, 256GB, 1TB M.2 PCIe SSD, 2TB HDD. The Alienware Aurora R5 impressed us with its clever, compact design and impressive power, and the Aurora R6 doubles down on the latter. By introducing Kaby Lake processors and up to 2 Nvidia GTX 1080 Ti's and SLI, it's every bit as capable as the Alienware Area 51. Plus and half as small to boot. Even with the small chassis, there's plenty of room for more RAM, storage for the years to come. 2. Chillblast Fusion Spectrum Ryzen 7 Gaming PC. CPU, AMD Ryzen 7 1800X. Graphics, Nvidia GeForce GTX 1080 Ti. RAM, 16GB 64GB. Storage, 250GB SSD, 2TB HDD 500GB SSD, 6TB HDD. The Chillblast Fusion Spectrum might sound like the sweetest water gun ever made, but is in fact a gaming PC, and it's the first of which we've reviewed to contain an AMD Ryzen 7 processor. Although it's pricey and perhaps even unnecessary for a lot of our readers who haven't made the jump to 4K resolution displays, this computer delivers exceptional performance, especially for streamers and multitaskers. 3. MSI Infinite A. CPU, Intel Core i7-7700. Graphics, Nvidia GeForce GTX 1060 1080 Ti. RAM, 16GB. Storage, 2TB HDD, 128GB SSD 2TB HDD, 512GB SSD. It's not uncommon anymore for PC makers to brandish their pre-built desktop rigs as VR ready. What is unusual is to do so with a computer that's also ready to conquer any game you throw at it at well over 60 frames per second and for under $2,000. That's exactly what MSI has accomplished with the Infinite A, a tower whose graphical efforts aren't thwarted by its preparedness for VR. Nor is it so expensive that it would see your head turn the other way. 4. MSI Trident 3. CPU, Intel Core i5-7400 i7-7700. Graphics, Nvidia GeForce GTX 1050 Ti 1060. RAM, 8GB 32GB DDR4, 2400 MHz. Storage, 2TB HDD, 120GB SSD 2TB HDD, 1TB SSD. Positioned as a console killer, the MSI Trident 3 looks a lot like an Xbox One S and is more powerful than a PS4 Pro, but at the end of the day, it's a PC that feels just right in your living room. Complete with all the ports you could ever dream of, the MSI Trident 3's advantages are clear. Still, in trying to be as thin and light as possible, the MSI Trident 3 comes equipped with a 330W external power supply brick, resembling some of the most less attractive console designs. 5. Lenovo Ideacentre Y900. CPU, Intel Core i5-6600K i7-6700K. Graphics, Nvidia GeForce GTX 1070 1080. RAM, 8GB 16GB DDR4, 2133 MHz. Storage, 1TB HDD 2TB HDD, 256GB SSD. If you're buying a pre-built PC, upgrades should be simple, right? That's the philosophy behind the Lenovo Ideacentre Y900. Embellished with red lights all over, the front of its chassis is bespeckled with textured patterns that'll no doubt make your friends jealous. On top of offering support for a VR-ready GTX 1080, the Lenovo Ideacentre boasts SLI support and room for up to 64GB of RAM, which are thankfully complemented by a convenient tool-less design. 6 Dell XPS Tower Special Edition. CPU, Intel Core i5-7400 Core i7-7700K. Graphics, AMD Radeon RX 580 Nvidia GeForce GTX 1080. RAM, 8GB 16GB DDR4, 2400 MHz. Storage, 256GB SSD, 1TB HDD 512GB SSD, 2TB HDD. The Dell XPS Tower Special Edition is a shining example of how to make a gaming PC subtle, without all the superfluous RGB lighting, effects and tempered glass enclosure. This is a machine that puts its money where its mouth is and competes on the merit of performance alone. Well, performance and also state-of-the-art customer service. You won't find a version of it with a GTX 1080 Ti housed inside, but its tool-less design makes it easy to upgrade nevertheless. 7 Origin Millennium. CPU, Intel Core i3-7350K i7-6950X. Graphics, AMD Radeon RX 482X Nvidia Titan X. RAM, 16GB DDR4, 2400 MHz, 64GB DDR4, 2800 MHz. Storage, 1TB HDD 8TB HDD, 4TB SSD. Sure, for the price of an Origin Millennium PC, you could buy a halfway decent car. But why would you need to leave the house when you can play games in 4K at a buttery smooth 60 FPS? Between its pair of EVGA GeForce GTX 1080 Founders Edition twins and the Intel Broadwell E-Core i7-6950X processor, there is nothing the Origin Millennium can't handle, and on the best of the best displays it. That. Of course, it's expensive, it's like 10 years worth of future-proof. 8 Alienware Area 51 Threadripper Edition. CPU, AMD Ryzen Threadripper 1950X. Graphics, Nvidia GeForce GTX 1060 1080 Ti. RAM, 8GB 32GB. Storage, 2TB HDD 1TB SSD, 2TB HDD. In classic Alienware fashion, the Area 51 Threadripper Edition pushes the limits of both technology and your wallet. It's wildly powerful, markedly featuring the latest AMD Ryzen Threadripper 1950X across all of its configurations. The Area 51's triad design hasn't changed much since its introduction back in 2014, but on the inside this machine is essentially tool-less to upgrade, not that you would even need to. 9 MSI Aegis 3. CPU, Intel Core i5-7400 i7-7700. Graphics, Nvidia GeForce GTX 1060 1080. RAM, 16GB 32GB. Storage, 2TB HDD, 256GB SSD 2TB HDD, 512GB SSD. Both in its appearances and temperature, the MSI Aegis 3 is one of those few examples of a gaming computer that's way cooler pre-built than what you could probably assemble yourself. Not only does its chassis look like an anime mecha robot, but it also features customizable, interactive lighting. What's more, it's similar in size to the Alienware Aurora, but with a Kaby Lake processor rather than a Skylake. 10 Corsair One. CPU, Intel Core i7-7700 i7-7700K. Graphics, Nvidia GeForce GTX 1070 1080 Ti. RAM, 16GB 32GB DDR4, 2400 MHz. Storage, 240GB SSD, 1TB HDD 480GB SSD, 2TB HDD. Known in part for putting out RAM that's faster than your processor, Corsair has made a name for itself in nearly every PC component category there is. Be that as it may, the company has only begun to flirt with assembling its own rigs. Luckily, with the Corsair One, the first time was the charm. This is a machine that prides itself in power, speed, and portability and succeeds on all fronts, save for maybe upgradability, which is all but impossible on the Corsair One.